Book it.
I'm not as well read as I'd like to be. There's just no time to read. If you're like me, you're always on the go.
And there's always so much work to do. Either I'm busy cooking dinner, or I just have to read. Even hard finding time to reflect, pray, and meditate.
Follow me to find your next read. Adult story time for professionals.
Book it.
Hello and welcome to Adult Story Time for Professionals. I am your host, come book reviewer, Rommela Janine L. Carzesi, PhD in IO Psychology, BA in Economics, and I also love to post a lot of my cooking that I do. Before doing this show, I did another show called Culture Now, and I did an episode all about Moroccan cuisine, like some of the standards. I mean, it was an hour-long program, so obviously I didn't cover all of Moroccan cuisine, but I covered some of the more staples, and that particular episode has gotten the most popular, positive feedback of any of the episodes that I've ever done. So, sometimes I share what I cook, and I do sometimes like to make special things, although not as much as my husband would like. I'm a career girl anyway. And those who know me, I'm a feminist, so don't get riled up by me using the word girl. But anyway, long story short, this week we are covering Kitchen Gyspsy. And this is by Joanne Weir, and again the title is Kitchen Gyspsy, Recipes and Stories from a Lifelong Romance with Food. I just looked at this book on the shelf. I got this one from the library, checked it out, and I just loved her smile. I love the cover. It looks like, that this really would be good food. What I also liked, there were some interesting stories that seemed to accompany each recipe as an intro. So I did sort of leaf through this, but no serious pre-reading, and just enough kind of like, hey, is there something in here maybe one day I would like to make? But that was basically as far as I got. And so anyway, from the beloved host and producer of the PBS series, Joanne Weir's Cooking Confidence and Joanne Weir Gets Fresh. That's cute, Gets Fresh. So apparently she's fairly famous in the PBS sphere, but I hadn't heard of her until I saw the book on the shelf and didn't know that she was affiliated with PBS until just reading that now. But anyway, celebrated chef and author Joanne Weir shares her lifelong love affair with food in this evocative collection of stories and more than 100 recipes. Thoughtful, inspiring, and often surprising, Kitchen Gyspsy is much more than a cookbook. It is a remarkable story on becoming a chef. It chronicles her years working at Chez Panisse during the beginning of the farm-to-table movement and her travels teaching cooking classes around the world. With refreshing humor, Joanne shares the spark that led her to love cooking, how she learned to develop a palate, and the meal that forever changed her life. Highlighted throughout our cherished dishes and lessons that have shaped her culinary journey, from her great-grandmother's 140-year-old lightning cake recipe to a luxurious beef remoulade perfected during her MasterChef training. Also included are approachable, globally inspired dishes like fried pork bellies. I can't even get that out. Fried pork belly tacos and autumn salad with figs. Haram, but those of my viewers who love bacon, that's your business, but we'll not be making the fried pork belly tacos. Both a sumptuous cookbook and an engaging armchair read, Kitchen Gyspsy pairs recipes made to be shared and savored alongside colorful anecdotes of the people, places, and flavors that guided a deep passion for good food. All right, so that sounds pretty promising with the exclusion of the pork belly tacos. So for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, Adult Story Time for Professionals is basically a free-flowing dialogue between you and I about a book that I have never read. In this case, I've leafed through but didn't read. And, there's so little time you have to make a decision about, is something really worth reading? In this particular case, I guess it would be a second decision of, is there something in this particular book that I read that sounds good enough for me to actually want to make? So I don't give a thumbs up or thumbs down. I let you decide if you think it's worth your time based upon what I read here with you and my reactions. So without further ado, let's get back into it. And, oh, I like these photos. I like that. Very visually appealing. That's good. Oh, and a pretty cool table of contents, different format. I like that. When I was an undergrad in college, I actually took an art of the book course, and I learned to set type and do some of that. So I notice things like this. Not by any means am I, a book artist extraordinaire, but I have a couple of things around the house that I made. So anyway, Under the Maple Tree, The Baking Soda Chronicles, In Search of Cilantro and Saffron. Oh, that sounds like a good chapter. There's a Fly in My Wine. Oh, I don't think so. A Lunch That Changed My Life, 3 Grains of Salt, My Chez Panisse Years, Inspired by Ingredients, Wanderlust, and The Agave Girls. Okay, so this sounds like some pretty interesting chapters. I like that. Oh, here's a great photo. Who's this? That's a really nice photo of the author, and I don't know who that could be. Maybe that's her. Oh, when they were friends. Okay, so that's who did the foreword, and that woman is Alice. And Alice, what's the name? Alice Waters. Okay. Over the years, many people have come through the doors of Chez Panisse for internships, jobs, and stages in the kitchen. Most are enthusiastic and learn from experience of working at the restaurant, but some of them take the ideas, values, and community of Chez Panisse to heart and truly thrive. Joanne, who first came to us in the mid-1980s, worked there for 5 years, is among the latter. Okay, so basically the foreword talks about how awesome Joanne is. So I like that. That's nice to know, touching. All right, introduction. I have written 17 cookbooks. Now, see, I really feel like I should know who she is. 2 shows on PBS and 17 cookbooks, and I don't know who she is. It's ridiculous. All right, sorry, Joanne. Sorry. I have written 17 cookbooks plus countless recipes for my PBS television programs, my restaurant, Copita. That sounds like a good place, Copita. Scores of cooking classes, numerous magazine spreads, and more. I wonder where the restaurant is located, actually. I may try and Google that. I don't know. She talks about California food a little bit further down, so maybe it's somewhere in California, I guess. Anyway, and although I feel as if 1,000 recipes are swimming in my brain at any given time, I wasn't sure I was ready to write another recipe book. Yet, I found myself sitting in the offices of Sunset Magazine in Milano Park, California, with the food editor, Margot True, and the editor-in-chief, Peggy Northrup, discussing a possible new book project. What do you think of California cooking? What does that mean to you? Margot asked. I squirmed uncomfortably in my chair and began to fidget. Since you were working at ground zero of the California food movement in its early days, how do you see it now? Peggy chimed in. I knew from their questions that California cuisine was a subject that they were most interested in pursuing with me. Yes, it's true. I was cooking when the California movement was just beginning. I had gotten my start at Chez Panisse, one of the restaurants that fueled the new style. But did I want that to be my next book? I wasn't sure. I looked down at my hands and started twirling my ring, a nervous habit of mine since I was a kid. I was searching for the right answer, and I knew that the answer was not in my palms. I could feel my face reddening as I looked up blankly. I guess, like that. If you could write any cookbook at all, what would it be? Peggy asked, trying to get a different tack. I smiled and relaxed a little bit. My chair suddenly felt much more comfortable. I didn't recall ever having been asked that question by a publisher. It was so basic, so elemental, that I was surprised to realize I had an answer ready. Thoughts and images swirled in my head, and I knew in that moment that yes, I did have another cookbook inside of me that was screaming to get out. Food is my life, I exclaimed enthusiastically. I want to write a book about how everything I've done in my life has gotten me to exactly where I am at this moment. I want to write about my path, and I want the recipes to show the way. Okay, that's pretty cool. That's a pretty nice little intro for how we got the book. It goes on for another page and a half, but I'll skip that. And let's see, chapter 1, Under the Maple Tree. So I guess this is a great photo of her when she was a little girl. And up here, I guess it says, my sisters Nancy and Jenny with me, always the ham in front of, singing in the navy blue dress with white and smocking that Anna Sears made for me. Okay. Sorry if I butchered that, but all right. Stand in front of the refrigerator, honey, my mother said with a smile. Oh, Mom. I looked at her with pleading eyes. Please don't make me. Joey, please. Please sing for everyone. Sing Silent Night. You know that everyone loves when you sing. But I said in my eyes, begging her. Deep down, I knew she had me. Whenever she asked me to do anything, I'd do it for her. Even when she asked me to kiss Uncle Harry, who smelled of Old Spice and stale cigar smoke, or Aunt Ruby, who had moles sticking out all over her face, I'd do it. Shame on you, Joanne. Okay. I knew that my many sisters, Nancy and Jenny and my brother, would never do the things that she asked, so I always did them. With a defeated sigh, I relented. Okay, I'll sing. All right, so anyway, I'm going to skip ahead. It was Christmas Eve, 1950s. I was asked to make my debut on the Frigidaire stage, singing Silent Night, Holy Night, All is Calm, All is Bright. I looked around, and ding, dinner is served. So it seems like maybe she was Saved by the Bell. I'm skimming. So anyway, my mom said, as she shoved big oven mitts onto her hands and pulled out a pan of bubbling hot scalloped Blue Point oysters, the dish for which she was famous, from the oven. Plenty of oohs and ahs arose from the grown-ups at the table, but the kids remained silent. Why didn't we give the scalloped oysters a chance? All it took was watching Aunt Ruby slurp a huge slippery oyster, guts and all, and my stomach did a flip-flop. Maybe next year, I thought. Yeah, I got that. All right, so anyway, on the next page, there is a recipe for scalloped oysters. So let's, that's cute. All right, so let's see what this is about here. With only 4 ingredients, it seems funny to me now that my mother got a standing ovation nearly every Christmas when this simple bubbly dish of baked oysters emerged from the oven. 3.5 cups oyster crackers, very coarsely crushed. 3 cups shucked oysters with their liquor, if you want to say it that way. 8 tablespoons unsalted butter, kosher salt, and freshly ground black pepper, and 1 cup of half and half. Position an oven rack in the top third of the oven, preheat to 375. Butter a 2.5 quart baking dish. Place 1/3 of the crackers on the bottom of the prepared dish, top with half of the oysters and then their liquor. Dot the oysters with 3 tablespoons of the butter and season with salt and pepper. Pour 1/2 cup of the half and half evenly over the oysters. Top evenly with the half of the remaining crackers, and then all of the remaining oysters and their liquor. Again, dot with 3 tablespoons of the butter. Season with salt and pepper, and then pour it on the remaining 1/2 cup of half and half evenly over the oysters. Strew the remaining crackers evenly over the surface and dot the remaining 2 tablespoons of butter. Bake until bubbles appear around the edges of the dish and the top is light golden brown, 25 to 30 minutes. Let rest for a few moments before serving. And it serves 6. All right, so I like how you immediately kind of get the story of the dish, and then boom, there's the dish. Although, since much of this story seemed to be about the oysters, I'm bummed that I don't see a photo for the oysters here. Like, I want to see those oysters, right? I don't know, I guess apparently there was some sort of tomato sandwich that was mentioned here. Let me go back and see. Yeah, on the other page here. She plucked a juicy, sweet beefsteak tomato and carried it inside, warm from the sun, and nestled in her hands almost as if it was a precious baby. I could smell its fresh fragrance. Finding a good tomato is so hard. I mean, you know, finding one that's ripe and not overripe, that's the right color, that has taste, is like a really hard thing. So having one that smells, I mean, I try and grow my own tomatoes every year. Sometimes it works out better than others, but okay. Mom toasted a couple of slices of her freshly baked white bread and slathered the warm toast with a creamy homemade mayonnaise. All right, so that's a tomato sandwich. I still wanted to see those scalloped oysters. Let's see. There's Grandpa's chicken salad sandwiches. I think I'll skip that. Letty's lightning cake with wild strawberry jam. Okay, so this is what the cake looks like. And quickly I'll just go through ingredients. I won't go through the how-to, but the ingredients. Wild strawberry jam, about 1.5 pounds or a quart wild or cultivated strawberries, hulled, washed, and sliced. 1 cup granular sugar, 1 tablespoon freshly squeezed lemon juice. All right, so that's the jam. For the lightning cake itself, 6 tablespoons unsalted butter, 1/3 cup whole milk, 3 large eggs at room temperature, 1 1/3 cups granulated sugar, 1 2/3 cup all-purpose flour, 1.5 teaspoons baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon kosher salt, and 1 teaspoon vanilla extract, and then powdered sugar for dusting. So my immediate thought was I'm trying to do this gluten-free thing right now, not because I have celiac disease, alhamdulillah, but I read that, maybe regular, flour somehow interferes with the digestion of vitamin D. So I wonder what would be a substitution for this cake, which looks pretty dry already. So I don't know how trying to substitute, flour, something else than flour would turn out, but okay. After lunch at my grandparents' farm, my mom and I would sit on the wraparound porch with Nana and Grandpa Sears, called the piazza. And I would look over the Berkshire Hills. We had this funny little game where we played where I asked her the same question, knowing full well the answer would be the same every time. Mom, what's on that hill over there? With a twinkle in her eye, she would always say, It's California. Mind you, it was a village of Goshen, population 317, just 7 miles away, but I didn't know any differently. I'm not sure she did either. All I knew was that the hill was California and that I was going to go there one day. It would be years before my feet would follow, but my mind was already wandering the world. I loved sitting there on the piazza talking to my mom about old times. Tell me, Mom, what was your grandmother Letty like? She was a great cook, were the first words out of her mouth. She was also very stern, honest. She kind of scared me. She was tall and burly and looked like a prize fighter in drag. Oh, come on, don't say that about Grandma. I couldn't imagine being gathered into her arms and cuddled the way Nana Sears hugged me. But she was an amazing baker. Wow, could she bake. Homemade bread, clover leaf rolls, Boston cream pie, baking powder biscuits, blueberry muffins with wild blueberries we'd pick alongside the roadside, and her famous lightning cake filled with homemade strawberry jam. What do you mean? She made a cake when there was thunder and lightning outside, I asked. No, it was so quick and easy to make, it was fast like lightning. I still wish I'd met great-grandma Letty, despite the fact that she seemed a little scary. I had a chance to bake with her, and had a chance to bake with her. But I'm lucky enough to have the original handwritten recipe from her famous lightning cake. It's over 140 years old, but beyond the stains and smudges, I can still make out her surprisingly delicate script. In recent years, I've made Letty's lightning cake, and as the sweet fragrance of vanilla and strawberries waft through my kitchen, I think maybe great-grandma Letty wouldn't have been so intimidating after all. So again, this is the cake. And that was a cute little story. I don't know, I mean, maybe a little overdone, but it was cute. And I like that she still has the recipe. Okay, but you talk about the recipe, but I don't see it. I see the cake. Okay, and here's, I guess, a photo of someone, but I would have liked to have seen the handwritten photo of that recipe. Yeah, I just, that would have been nice to see. All right, so Mama's pickles, I'm going to pass on that. Dad's cherry stone, well here, okay, I said Mama's pickles, so at least you can see the pickles. I'm going to pass on that. Dad's cherry stone clams, I'm going to pass on that. Ooh, cookies. Okay, let's talk about the cookies. All right, these are oatmeal raisin cookies. And the ingredients, well, it says oatmeal raisin cookies. As long as you measure the baking soda in teaspoons and not in cups like 9-year-old me, you'll be rewarded with crisp yet chewy, perfectly sweet oatmeal cookies. Sometimes you just have to learn the hard way. So I don't know how you would do... Okay, I'm going to stop there. She's saying, as long as you measure in teaspoons, not cups. I don't see how you could get 9 cups. I don't even know who would have 9 cups of baking soda in their home, but okay. I couldn't have been much older than 9 when I decided to bake cookies all by myself. I pulled out my mother's wooden recipe box and rifled through it, looking for the perfect recipe. As I flipped through the cards, I came across one with tattered corners and greasy circles from old egg yolk and butter stains. Oatmeal raisin cookies, the loopy cursive announced. I figured they must be good because the card had clearly have gotten a lot of use. I put on one of my mom's aprons, circling the long strings twice around my tiny waist before tying them in front. I gathered all of the ingredients, then measured everything and organized the items neatly on the white Formica countertop. As I poured baking soda into the measuring cup, I yelled out, "Mom, we just ran out of baking soda." "That's funny," she called back from the living room. where she was watching As the World Turns. I bought a new box last week. Focus on the task at hand. I mixed the dough, meticulously scooped it up, and rolled each portion into 1-inch ball. And then placed the spheres exactly 2 inches apart as the recipe sheet instructed. They were beautiful. I looked at them admiringly, not knowing if I was more excited about how evenly I had rolled them or about all the tasting a hot cookie the moment they were done. I popped the baking sheet into the oven and pulled up a chair to watch the cookies work their magic. As I sat there mesmerized, peering through the clouded window on the door, the cookies seemed to melt on the baking sheet into one massive cookie. Of course they did with one big box of baking soda, but that's kind of a cute story. And this is her mother. So I like that photo shared there. And the cookies look pretty good, so, they probably taste pretty good. Let's see, let's move to, oh, this is a cool photo of her, I think. Now, who is that? I think that is her. Okay, so apparently she was in Cape Cod one summer, had long hair, and it was 1975, and she had gotten her Bachelor of Fine Arts, University of Massachusetts, and I don't know, something about Boston Globe. I don't know. She's looked like she's going to make some Mexican stuff. Guacamole and pico de gallo. They look like good recipes. See, she has recipe cards for stuff that she's made. It would have been nice to see that recipe card for the cookies. It's like I feel like there's a lot of missed opportunities on the diagram here, but a tabbouleh recipe, if you don't know how to make tabbouleh. And that does look pretty good. Looks like good tabbouleh. Let's see. All right, so that buzzing sound means that the episode is drawing to a close. Let me stop the timer right here. And we'll go ahead and kind of wrap up. So, generally speaking, I think the stories are cute. I don't know. I think the title Gyspsy, Kitchen Gypsy, had me really thinking it was going to be more of a sort of Mediterranean, California fresh type thing. I guess using, her word, eat fresh. And it seems to be more, I don't know, in some ways, here's a green Capri salad. That looks good to me. That looks like a really good salad. Fava beans in the pod, some asparagus, English peas, mozzarella, mint. Oh yeah, I mean this just kind of changed my opinion a little bit about the book. I would make this, and I think this would probably taste excellent. Some of the other recipes are just kind of, and admittedly I hadn't gone through everything, but I don't know. It's if you're looking for maybe a good sort of sampling cookbook, this might be it, but it seems to be very kind of American, and it seems as though there was a need to try and infuse that California thing in it, going back to the conversation she was having with her publisher. And I like California food, don't get me wrong. But I just think the Kitchen Gypsy title set my mind for something different. So, as usual, I don't give an opinion about, should you read it or should you not read it. For me, I think I would maybe try and crib that English P and see if there was anything else, just kind of looking at the photos that might be worth trying to make. But I don't know if I would commit the time to actually trying to read this as a book. And to be honest, I mean, to be fair to Joanne, I don't think you're really meant to try and read a cookbook like a regular book. So I don't know if there's enough recipes in here for me to kind of, live with this book for long. But I do like the photos, and I love how she's trying to share some of her story, which is kind of nice. And I do feel bad that I hadn't heard about her before. So anyway, this is Kitchen Gypsy, the lovely Joanne Weir. And thank you so much for watching another episode of Adult Storytime for Professionals.